What happens when your life is at its lowest and someone offers you a chance to turn everything around? Emily Taylor was just a struggling single mother working tirelessly to make ends meet when an unexpected encounter with a powerful businessman, Daniel Harrison, changed everything. After losing her restaurant and facing eviction, Emily had no choice but to take a job delivering meals. But fate had other plans. What seemed like a simple delivery turned into a life-altering offer from Daniel, a man who saw something in her that even she had forgotten. A chance at a new life, a new future. But at what cost? Can Emily trust a man who appears to have everything she needs, but also holds the power to break her all over again? How far would you go to trust someone who's offering you the world? The streets of New Orleans were drenched, the rain hammering down in relentless sheets, a mirror to the storm raging inside Emily Taylor. The once promising future she'd built was now in tatters. At 25, she had lost everything. Her small restaurant, once full of hope and dreams, had collapsed just 3 months after opening. Her partner, John, had vanished with what little money was left in the bank, leaving her with debt, a broken heart, and a 6-year-old daughter, Sophia, who depended on her for everything. As she pedaled her bike through the flooded streets, Emily couldn't help but feel the weight of the world pressing down on her. Her hands trembled, not from the cold November air, but from the helplessness she felt. The eviction notice on the table at home screamed at her. She had 3 days to come up with rent, or she'd be out on the streets with Sophia. But there was no more money left, no more hope, just the long road ahead. The road she had to walk alone. She wiped away a tear as she reached a street corner. The wind howled through the trees, and the sound of the rain hitting the pavement was deafening. Emily felt as though she were walking through the storm that had become her life. "Mommy, why are you crying?" Her daughter's voice pulled her out of her thoughts. Sophia stood in the doorway, her small face a mirror of confusion. Emily forced a smile, trying to hide the exhaustion, the fear, the pain. "I'm not crying, sweetheart. I just got some dust in my eyes." She lied, her voice shaky. Sophia didn't buy it. She never did. But the girl's innocence was her shield, and Emily couldn't bring herself to break her heart any further. "Go back to bed, darling," she said softly, smoothing her daughter's dark hair. "I'll be right there." As Sophia disappeared down the narrow hallway, Emily returned to her harsh reality. She was alone in this battle with no one to turn to, no one to save her. The phone rang. "Emily, it's Sarah," came the voice of her childhood friend. "Have you thought about my proposal?" Emily swallowed. Sarah had offered her a small catering job. It wasn't much, but it was something, and it was better than nothing. "I'll do it," Emily said, cutting off Sarah's protests. "When do I start?" "Tomorrow. 6 a.m. Bring your knives. I'll have the pots ready." As she hung up, Emily sat back in her rickety chair, staring at her hands. Hands that had once dreamed of creating dishes in a beautiful restaurant. Now they were preparing meals to go, packed in cheap containers. But there was no room for regrets. Not now. The next morning, Emily was in Sarah's kitchen working like a woman possessed. She chopped, sautéed, and seasoned with the kind of precision that only comes from years of experience. By 10 a.m., 30 meals were packed and ready for delivery. As Sarah handed her the map and a simple uniform, white shirt, blue apron with the logo Home Flavor, Emily felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. She could do this. She had to. The first few deliveries were easy, simple office workers, mechanics, lunch breaks, but the last stop of the day would change everything. The towering glass and steel building in the heart of the city loomed ahead, its imposing structure standing like a silent giant. "Sorry, but you can't go up like that," the security guard said with a dismissive glance at Emily's splattered uniform and disheveled hair. "Deliveries go around the back." Humiliation burned in her cheeks. She had been rejected by the very people she was trying to feed, but she held her head high as she made her way to the back entrance, clutching the 5 meals that seemed to weigh 100 pounds in her hands. When she finally reached the 12th floor, the receptionist, an impeccably dressed woman, barely looked at her. "You're late," she said coldly, checking her watch. "And we need 10 more meals for tomorrow. The new director is bringing guests." As the woman turned her back on her, Emily caught sight of him, a tall, broad-shouldered man in a perfectly tailored suit. His dark hair swept back with precision. His profile was striking, his jawline strong, and his blue eyes, impossibly blue, seemed to pierce through the room. But the moment passed quickly, and the door to the conference room closed, cutting off her view of him. Still, something in his gaze had lingered in her thoughts. Something about those eyes, those deep blue eyes, made her heart race in a way she couldn't explain. The rain began to fall harder as she made her way back to her bike, the weight of the day settling over her. It's just a job, she told herself, pushing through the discomfort. Just a job. But little did Emily know, this was no ordinary day. That encounter, that brief moment, would change everything. Have you ever experienced a moment that completely changed your life like Emily's meeting? Let us know in the comments below. The next morning, Emily woke up to the sharp sound of her alarm clock ringing through the stillness of her apartment. She had barely slept, tossing and turning, her mind replaying the encounter with Daniel Harrison, his piercing blue eyes, the faintest smile that tugged at the corner of his lips. The way he looked at her, as if he saw more than just a tired mother struggling to make ends meet. Shaking off the lingering thoughts, Emily quickly dressed in the plain white shirt and blue apron Sarah had given her. The familiar weight of her knives tucked safely into her bag. She was ready to focus on the task ahead, cooking, delivering, and making it through the day. As the hours passed, the kitchen was alive with activity. Emily sliced, diced, and stirred with the precision of someone who had spent her entire life in kitchens crafting recipes handed down from her grandmother. There was a comfort in it, something that felt like home. Just keep going, she told herself. Just make it through. By the time she had prepared 30 meals, Sarah handed her the familiar map and a stack of orders. Everything's ready for delivery. You're on your own today. I'll cover the rest of the week, she said, her voice laced with support. Emily nodded, pushing aside the sinking feeling of doubt that had plagued her for weeks. I can do this, she murmured. The deliveries went smoothly at first, the usual office workers, tired construction crews, and coffee shop regulars. It was routine, almost too routine. But when she reached the Alta Vista building, the towering glass fortress where the wealthy and powerful roamed, something shifted in the air. She was no longer just a food delivery woman. This time she was stepping into a world that had never been hers. As she approached the front door, the security guard eyed her disapprovingly. Not with that outfit you won't, he said, his gaze sweeping over her disheveled appearance. Delivery goes through the back. Humiliation flooded her chest, but Emily clenched her fists, refusing to let the sting show. Just get it done, she thought as she trudged around the building and into the dimly lit alley. Inside the building, Emily found herself standing before the elevator, her heart pounding in her chest as she rode up to the 12th floor. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was out of place. The polished floors, the sleek, modern designs, they all whispered of a world she would never be a part of. But she had no choice. She pressed the button for the marketing department, trying to hide the tremble in her hands. The receptionist at the front desk barely looked up from her phone. You're late, she muttered, clearly uninterested. Leave the meals in the back kitchen. The new director wants everything by noon. The words were like a punch to the gut. But just as Emily turned to leave, her eyes caught a glimpse of him. Daniel Harrison. His back was to her, but she saw the sharp lines of his suit and the way he carried himself with an ease that felt entirely different from her own haggard existence. His broad shoulders, his perfectly styled hair, the elegant way he held himself. It was as if the world bent to him. But when he turned, their gazes collided, and Emily's breath caught in her throat. For a moment, neither of them moved. Time seemed to stretch out, the world outside their brief bubble fading away. You're the one with the meals, he said, his voice low, deeper than she remembered. The shock in his eyes replaced by something else. Emily nodded quickly, suddenly aware of the mess of her clothes and the water dripping from her rain-soaked hair. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm just here to deliver. His lips curved into a small, knowing smile. You've been working hard, he remarked, his eyes scanning her face, noticing the exhaustion, the weariness that clung to her every movement. I've seen your meals. They've been the talk of the office. Emily blinked, momentarily stunned. Really? He nodded, his smile softening. Yes, and I'd like to make you an offer. Her heart skipped a beat. An offer? She asked incredulously, lacing her words with disbelief. She had no idea what he could possibly want from someone like her. I think you have a real talent, he continued. I've been looking for someone to help me with a personal project. It's not much, but I believe you could be the perfect fit. The words hung in the air, heavy with promise and possibility. Emily swallowed hard, her mind racing. What kind of project? Before he could answer, the receptionist appeared, signaling for him to follow her. Mr. Harrison, your meeting is ready. He glanced at Emily, his expression unreadable. We'll talk more soon, he said, before following the receptionist down the hallway. The elevator doors closed, and Emily stood there, staring after him, her mind whirling. What just happened? Was it real? Or was this some kind of cruel joke? What would you do in her place? Would you take a chance, or play it safe? It had been days since Daniel Harrison had given Emily that cryptic offer. Her thoughts were consumed by it, racing in circles as she tried to make sense of what had happened. The long days of deliveries, the constant grind, the endless battles with her past. It all seemed like a distant memory compared to the whirlwind of possibility now standing before her. But Emily couldn't ignore the harsh truths of her life. She had been burned before. John, her ex, had promised her the world and then vanished without a trace, leaving her with nothing but debt and a shattered heart. She'd sworn to never let herself be vulnerable again, to never let anyone into her life the way John had. And now Daniel Harrison, with his polished charm and powerful presence, was offering her something that seemed too good to be true. Just keep your distance, Emily told herself. But the truth was, she was tired of keeping her walls up. Every part of her, her dreams, her fears, her heart, yearned for something more than the cold reality she had been living. After much deliberation, she called him. I'm in. She said the words, tumbling out before she could stop them. But I have 3 conditions. The phone was quiet for a moment, as if Daniel was processing what she had just said. Name them, he responded, his voice calm but intense. I want an advance to pay my rent. Done. I need flexible hours so I can be with my daughter. Absolutely, he agreed without hesitation. And if at any point I feel like this isn't right, I can walk away without consequences. There was a slight pause. Fair enough, he said finally. You start tomorrow. Emily ended the call with a rush of emotion, relief, fear, hope. She had just made a decision that would change the course of her life forever. The next morning, she found herself standing in front of a building she had only dreamed of stepping into. The place was a mixture of modern sleekness and traditional charm, just like the restaurant Daniel had envisioned. She was here now, not just as a cook, but as a key player in something much bigger than she had ever imagined. When she stepped inside, she was greeted by a team of chef-servers and a bustling kitchen. But there was no doubt in her mind. This was her moment. She threw herself into her work with the same passion she'd had when she first began cooking with her grandmother, creating dishes that were more than just meals. They were pieces of her soul. Over the following days, the bond between Daniel and Emily deepened. They spent long hours together tasting new recipes, discussing the direction of the restaurant, and working late into the night. There was an undeniable chemistry between them, a connection that neither could ignore. One evening, after the kitchen had emptied out and the restaurant was quiet, Daniel approached her. I need to talk to you, he said, his tone more serious than usual. Emily stopped what she was doing, her heart racing. What is it? There's something you should know. He hesitated, his gaze shifting away from hers for a moment. I've been watching you. Your talent, your drive. You remind me of someone I've been searching for my whole life. Emily frowned, unsure of where this was going. What do you mean? I've been building this restaurant not just for the food, but for the story of the people who've shaped me. But what I've realized is that this story isn't just mine anymore. It's ours. I want you to be a part of that. I want you to be more than just a chef. I want you to be a partner. Emily felt her heart drop. What are you saying? I'm offering you more than a job. I'm offering you a future together. The words hung in the air like a breath held too long. Emily was speechless, the weight of his offer pressing down on her chest. Could she really trust him? Could she trust herself? Before she could speak, Daniel took a step closer, his eyes locking with hers. I'm not asking for anything more than your belief in me and us. Her mind raced, her past, haunting her with doubts and fears. She had been burned once. Could she afford to risk it again? But in Daniel's eyes, she saw something she hadn't seen in a long time. Genuine care. A willingness to be vulnerable. To build something real. Finally, she found her voice. I need time, she whispered. I need to know that this is real. Take all the time you need, he said, his voice softening. I'm here whenever you're ready. Several months later, grandmother's memories had become more than just a restaurant. It was a symbol of resilience, of second chances. The food, the atmosphere, the heart that went into every dish. It all came together to create something extraordinary. Emily had found her place, not just in the kitchen, but in Daniel's life as well. One evening, as the restaurant buzzed with customers enjoying their meals, Daniel stood next to Emily in the kitchen. I think it's time, he said, his voice steady. Time for what? Emily asked, her curiosity piqued. Without warning, Daniel dropped to one knee, pulling out a small velvet box. The room seemed to fall silent, the noise of the kitchen fading into the background. Emily Taylor, he began, his eyes never leaving hers. You have taught me what it means to fight for something worth having. You've made this dream real. Will you marry me and build this life with me, not just in the kitchen, but in everything? Emily's heart raced. This was real. She could feel it deep in her soul. She had been waiting for this moment her whole life, without even knowing it. Yes, she breathed, her voice shaking. Yes, I will. The room erupted in applause, and Emily felt the weight of her past, of every struggle and heartbreak, fall away. She was here now, standing beside the man who believed in her, who saw her worth. And for the first time in a long time, Emily was ready to believe in love again. Do you think she made the right choice in accepting his proposal and risking her heart again? This story teaches us that even after facing immense hardships, it's never too late to rebuild and embrace new opportunities. Emily Taylor's journey shows that no matter how many times life knocks us down, we can rise again if we have the courage to trust ourselves and others. The story highlights the importance of resilience, not just in our careers, but in our personal lives as well. Emily learned that love, trust, and vulnerability are not signs of weakness, but of strength. Daniel's belief in her potential encouraged her to take a chance and embrace the unknown. This reminds us that sometimes taking a leap of faith, whether in our career or relationships, can lead to the most rewarding chapters of our lives. True success isn't just about achieving our goals, but about the people we build those goals with and the relationships we nurture along the way. If you love this story, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to share it with your friends. Where are you watching from?